Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to see how we can handle web authentication pop-ups using CITS. Now, CITS uses Selenium underneath. So if we understand how to handle these authentication pop-ups using Selenium, to understand the procedure in CITS is rather simple. Now, what is meant by web authentication pop-ups? I have a URL. Yeah. If I hit the URL, I get an authentication pop-up like this, which asks me to enter the username and the password. Now, these kinds of pop-ups could be of two types, a basic authentication or a digest authentication, depending upon the encoding principle behind. Right? Now, for this application, the username is admin and the password is also admin. And if I hit sign in, I'm actually logged into the system. So this is a typical scenario which we would want to automate using CITS. Now, before we do that, I would like to spy on this object, on this success message, to ascertain that the authentication was successful. So we go to CITS, we create a new scenario called authentication, or rather let's call it web authentication pop-up. Yeah, and a new test case TC1. Okay, now if I do a spy, and if I come to the application spy, this is the text that I would like to spy. Control right click to add it, and I see the success message has been added to the object repository. Okay, uh, now, how do I handle these kinds of authentication pop-ups in Selenium? If we closely look at the URL that we used, yeah, I'm going to zoom this a little bit. Now, the way to handle this is right after the protocol is mentioned. So HTTP or HTTPS colon double slash, just right after this protocol is being mentioned, and then the domain starts, what we can do is simply pass the username followed by a colon, then followed by the password, and then followed by the @ sign. Okay, so if we understand this concept, it would be very easy for us to handle this in CITS. So we have the protocol, then the username, then a colon, then the password, then an @ sign, and then the domain. Okay, to see this in action, we will take this application, HTTP colon, then the username was admin, then colon, then password was also admin, and then @ and then the domain. Yeah. If we open up an incognito window, yeah, and paste this URL directly instead of the original one, we are directly entering into the application. Okay, so this is what we are going to leverage. Very simple. Um, if we go to this newly formed URL, there are 5 parts to it. The first one is the protocol. The second one is the username, then the password, then the @ and the domain. Okay, so let's go to CITS and let's start adding these 5 components. Actually, there are 6 if we consider this colon, right? So these 6 components in into different variables. Okay, let's start adding them. So we can say browser, and to create a variable in CITS, we simply use add var. Okay, and the first thing that we will add to this is the domain. Sorry, is the protocol, HTTP or HTTPS. Yeah. So this is the data. So add var, then the data, and then in the condition column, we need to add the name of the variable. Okay, so I'm going to call it domain. Yeah. Then the next one that we will do is the username. So I'm going to say browser add var @admin, that was the username, and then percentage user. This is the variable that I'm creating, percentage user percentage. Um, then browser add var. I'm going to use this as a separator. So separator. Sorry, typo. Yeah. Then we're going to add Control D. This will copy the line. We're going to add the password. Password, and then @ followed by the domain. Control D, copy the line. This is what we need, @ then the domain. So @ and then the domain, and this one is going to be renamed to domain. Okay. Oh, the first one was not domain. I beg your pardon. This one was protocol. Yeah, a secured protocol would have meant it would be HTTPS. Okay, so we have all the 5 components of the URL that we need in 5 different variables. Okay, now if we just do browser and then we start, we create another variable essentially called URL. Yeah, this is the URL which will have the concatenated value of all these, right? So this is the URL which will have the concatenated value of all these. Now to create a concatenation of all these, we can use equals and then concat, and then we can simply start to concatenate all these variables using comma. So first we're going to use condition. So protocol. So protocol. Then we have percentage user percentage. Then we have percentage separator. Separator. And then we have percentage password. Yeah, and then finally percentage domain. All right, so all the 5 values have been concatenated to form the master URL, which upon hitting will directly authenticate us because we have created this URL in an authenticated form already. Okay, so the next line would be browser. I'm going to say open, and then the URL will be this variable simply. Yeah. Then I'm going to add a dummy line, browser pause. I'm adding this line because I want to run this in debug mode, breakpoint. Now, if you remember, we had added the success message, which is something that also we want to validate that is present on the screen after the login or the authentication is successful. So what we will do is we will add a couple of lines. We're going to say browser, and then the action would be wait for page loaded. So that will wait for the entire page to load properly after authentication. And then this is the success message. I'm going to rename this to success message. And I'm going to drag and drop this, and I'm going to say assert element displayed. Yeah. That's it. These are the steps that we will perform. So from step 1 all the way till step 5, we have created variables which individually constitute of the different parts of the authenticated URL. And then at step number 6, we are concatenating all the variables together to form a master URL, which is already authenticated. And then line number 7 is just opening of the URL. And line number 8 and 9 is just to ensure that the login is successful. Okay, we're going to run this in incognito mode. So incognito, I'm going to say yes. Save. To understand how we have added this incognito property, please watch my previous video on enabling incognito in CITS. Right click, Chrome, let's start. And that's it. It launched and it authenticated, and the element success message is displayed. So it is also successful. Let's see a bit more of the logs. So I'm going to open this up a little bit. So let's see at every step what is being followed. So the variable protocol has been added with this value. Good. The user has been added with this value, the separator with the colon, the password with admin again, the domain with @ and then the domain name. And together, the concatenation has resulted, see, the URL is the concatenated value, has resulted in the complete authenticated URL, which is then fed to the open command, browser open, and then the authenticated URL. The page was loaded and the success message is displayed. Yeah, as simple as that. So if we move forward, that ends the test case, and this is how we can handle a web authentication pop-up. Hope you like this video, and hope to see you in the next video.